Hello, everyone. Welcome. So it's 12 o'clock noon our time, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. So my name is Jackie. I'm a college admissions coach here with the American Indian College Fund. I am an enrolled member of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation, and I'm also a descendant of the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. And I will be one of the people guiding you through today's webinar. So again, thank you for tuning in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra Darling, originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a descendant of the Navajo and Lakota people, and I am so excited to be here with Jackie, my colleague, as we talk about scholarships, how to apply, the applications for it, and all of the above. So this is going to be really informational for all of you, and we're really glad to have a lot of you here. And yeah, let's get started.
So before we get started, I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about our organization and the work that we do. And then if this is your first time tuning into Shindig, it's a really cool platform. We'll give you a little bit of background on how to get the most out of the platform. And if you've already tuned in, thank you for coming back. But we'll keep it quick so we can get to the content. We have two really awesome scholarship experts here to give you guys great tips and tricks. So with that, Alex and I work for an organization, a nonprofit organization called the American Indian College Fund. So we are predominantly a scholarship-based organization out of Denver, Colorado. However, we're much more than that. We also offer different kinds of programming components that help students on their academic and their career paths. So that was pretty quick. So let me go ahead and do the housekeeping. So like I said, Shindig is an interactive online platform. So we encourage you to turn on your cameras and obviously turn on your volume so you can hear the different speakers and what they have to say. So I'm going to mention three things. So the first thing is on your screen, you can see a button that looks like a hand. So that button is called Raise Your Hand. So if you want to come up, if you have a question and want to speak to anyone, one of the presenters or Alex and myself to ask a question or make a comment, you can raise your hand and we will bring you up to the screen and everybody can see you ask that question or make that comment. If that doesn't sound like something that you're interested, there's also a question button. So it's a little question mark. So you click on the question button and you can type a question. You can also type a comment and we can project that on the screen and have one of the presenters or Alex or myself answer or respond to the comment that you have. So one note about that is if you're using Shindig Mobile, you will only see the raise your hand button. So once you click that button, you will see the option to ask a question. But again, this is an interactive platform. If you have questions, please engage and we'll answer them as soon as we have the opportunity. And then the last thing I want to mention is the IM function, the instant messaging function. So you see all these little bubbles floating around. Those are the different participants that are on this webinar. And you can double click on any image and you can engage in a private conversation with them. And so you'll see mine and Alex's bubble. We are J and A. And so if you have questions for us specifically about the College Fund, you can private message with us. So with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce our speakers and get going.
Yeah, so our first speaker is Shoshani Perez. I got to know her this past year. She is actually a American Indian College Fund student ambassador. So she does so much for us as far as, being a face, being a role model, being a great mentor, and just a representation of, who we are at the American Indian College Fund. Specifically, she's a first-year experience advisor at Northwest Indian College. So she has a lot of great information. We're super excited she's here today. And like Jackie said, with questions, you can ask us questions, and then we can also ask Shoshani a question. So we are going to open it up after she's done talking for some questions, about 3 to 5 minutes, if you have questions for her specifically over her presentation. And then Jackie's going to introduce our second presenter.
So after Shoshani speaks and we have a little time for questions, we're going to hear from Marissa Lewis. And Marissa is the student success coordinator, specifically student success coordinator at the College of Muskogee Nation. And so she has a lot of great information to give us about different kinds of scholarships, in addition to that first year experience. So if you're about to enter college, she can give you a lot of tips and tricks about what you can expect for that transition, but also what to expect in kind of encountering your first experience with college applications and scholarship applications specifically. So again, just like Alex said, each of our presenters will get about 12 to 15 minutes, we'll say, depending on how many questions you guys have. And then we'll open it up for questions after each speaker. And then at the end, we'll kind of open up for general questions about any additional scholarships that you guys may have that nobody mentioned.
Okay. So there's quite a few of you that are still populating in and joining the webinar. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Alexandra Darling. This is
Jackie Demko.
And then we are going to be talking on scholarship and the applications of that and how to apply and a whole bunch of information. So first, we're going to talk on this video here. It's called Show Don't Tell. This is a great way to start this webinar. It is some great advice from one of our other student ambassadors, Blue Tarpalecci. He was a student at the Institute of American Indian Arts, and he graduated from there. And now he's a PhD student at the University of Oklahoma. He is a student ambassador from last year and has just done such amazing work with us. And we are just super happy that he was able to share this video. So we are going to start with this video and then jump right into our presenters. So yeah, enjoy.
So as you're filling out your applications, whether they're scholarship applications or admissions applications, and you're faced with a short answer section or an about me section, and you really want to tie together your story and your goals and where you've been with where you're going, you want to make sure you show, don't tell. And what that looks like is, instead of just saying, I'm very passionate about medicine, why don't you incorporate some of the things that you're doing in your community, some of the things that you've experienced with your family. You know, talk about, I value medicine because my grandparent was a medicine person, or I have had a lot of experience with diabetes because my family has diabetes. Don't just stop at that surface level where you talk about your passion or you talk about your interests. Show how those passions and interests impact you, or how you spend your time in those areas. Why don't you say, I spend my time volunteering at the pharmacy, or I go to the local clinic and I have relationships with the techs that work there. And then you can transition that into your goals and how that education will get you better set up to pursue those interests. And that's really what show don't tell kind of means.
All right, so that was Blue. Thank you so much, Blue, for sharing that with us. And he has a lot of great resources too. So if you have questions for Blue, we can filter those to him as well. Next is, we're going to jump right into our presenters for today. And so we're going to bring up Shoshani, and she can share a little bit more about her experience here with the American Indian College Fund, and what she's done and everything. But Shoshani, go ahead. You're on mute, but go ahead and unmute yourself, and then pass it over to you, and you go forward and share the information.
Yeah, so thank you, Jackie. So good morning. My name is Shoshani Perez. I am a descendant of the Tulalip and Tlingit and Haida peoples. I am also as Alex said, I'm a 2019-2020 College Fund ambassador in my side life, as I like to say. But my day job is I work at Northwest Indian College as the first year experience advisor. I'm also an alumni of Northwest Indian College. I received both my associate's degree and then my bachelor's in human services from Northwest Indian College, and have now moved on into my master's of education at Central Washington University. So had a very long run and long history and experience with education and scholarships. I'm a second generation college student. My mother is a first generation college student, and didn't go to college until my sisters and I were well into getting into middle school era. And so what I want to share with you guys personally about some of the scholarship or application materials. I got to work a lot through the American Indian College Fund Native Pathways program to teach a lot of this to high school students in the Lummi area, as I live in Bellingham, Washington. And so some of this stuff is things that I've picked up on my own throughout the years, and just some tips and tricks that I would hope that would help you guys as well, that have kind of helped me along the way. So first is to have your personal statement read and edited by someone that you trust. So whether this is for a college application or whether it's for a scholarship, we always have to have some sort of personal statement. We are our own worst critics, meaning that when we look at something, oftentimes we will go through and edit it 4 or 5 times and still feel like we need to change it some more. So I always suggest to students and to myself when I've been writing my grad school essays and things like that, I have a very few close friends that I trust, because oftentimes we are putting very personal information in these stories that you may not just want to share with an English instructor that you trust, or those sorts of things. And so I have some really good friends that have gone through the process as well. And so I pass off my personal statement to them and say, please make some changes to it if you see fit. And I don't have just one person, I have a couple sets of eyes to look at it, which is super helpful, because it comes back to me with a lot of helpful information that I can use to make it better. I really use this tactic when I moved from Northwest Indian College. When I graduated with my associate's degree, Northwest did not have the bachelor's degree that I wanted to pursue. And so I was actually transferring to Western Washington University and had never really written a big essay for schools before. And so my best friend, actually I had my best friend and another person that I trusted that had gone on to big universities read my essays to help me get in. And it was actually successful because I was able to get into the school. The second one is to save everything, and I do mean everything, from official transcripts, pictures, your essays, tribal documents if you are applying for tribal scholarships, onto a thumb drive or something like Google Docs. Our school now uses OneDrive through Office 365, and I know a lot of schools use Office 365 for easy access and quick scholarship applying. In my personal experience, I had never thought about doing this because we all, apply off of our laptops. But there are times when laptops don't work or they break, things along those lines. And so I actually learned this from somebody that worked in admissions at Northwest Indian College when I started. And so we've kind of passed this on to our students. Because when you finally work to cultivate and to gather all of the information that you need for a scholarship, every scholarship needs the same thing. They need a personal essay. They often need a picture because their donors want to see who they're giving their money to. They also, if you're trying, like I said, a tribal scholarship, they want to know where your tribal affiliation is. You always need an official transcript of some sort. And some may need letters of recommendation, but if you have them all on a thumb drive or quick access like Google Drives or Google Docs, you would be able to upload those, and the time that you have to actually spend applying for a scholarship or applying to a school, I've seen students in my building do it within 20 minutes because they have everything in one localized area and they're not running around our campus asking for individual pieces of information. So if you have a thumb drive, that's great. Sometimes people lose thumb drives, so people trust Google Docs and things like that because it's a floating resource that you can go to. So just find one that works for you and keep your stuff up there and kind of keep it up to date. This one I really will stress for any student, and I have to remind myself of this, is apply for any scholarship. So much money goes left unclaimed by students every year. So I was interested when I started working with high school students, how much money is there out there? How much money, do people not get in scholarships? Because we always think that only one student gets a scholarship, which is really untrue. I want to say the statistic that I ended up finding after doing a bunch of research was about $1.25 million or something around those lines. In 2015 was actually unclaimed by students in scholarships. So the rule that I always talk to students about is, if you think you meet one qualification on a scholarship, go ahead and apply for it. The money exists for students to go to school, and so businesses, nonprofits, they really want to give the money out because they don't really want to hold on to it. It can be a tax cut for them for whatever reason it may be. But you may be the only person that applies for a scholarship that is for Native American students interested in film that are studying in the Midwest. But because you're the only person that applies for it, you were able to get that money because they want to give the money away. So I always tell my students, because I have students that come in my office and they're like, oh, I only meet 2 out of the 6 requirements for this scholarship. My GPA might not be high enough. Those sorts of things. I'm not declared in a business program or things along those lines. And I always encourage students to still go ahead and apply, because you never know how many students are going to apply or what, in the end, their ultimate decision could be. Your story could be what really pushes a donor over the edge to give money to you as well. And the last one is to create something that's called a brag sheet. It is really uncommon. It's kind of like a resume, I guess is the best way to explain it. This was something I learned in high school because we had to ask for letters of recommendation when applying to college. But the idea of a brag sheet, to me, still to this day at almost 27, feels extremely weird to kind of brag about myself. But what it really is it's a sheet or a piece of paper, a couple pieces of paper where you list things like where you've gone to school, your majors, were you involved in things in high school? Are you involved in things outside of the classroom? And you just kind of lay it all out into one sheet that you can then give to people that are writing you letters of recommendation. I am just as guilty of this as I think most of my students are. I have a scholarship that's due probably sometime in the next week. It's Tuesday, the scholarship's due next Monday, and I ask for a letter of recommendation on a Wednesday. And so I have had students come in and ask me for a letter of recommendation the day before. And the question that I always ask my students, even if I know them, I have access to their academic record, but is there something that you want me to include outside of the realm of your education? Because if not, I'm just going to write, you're a really good student, you're studying this program, this is when you enter college. But to have a more personalized, attached, personalized letter of recommendation, brag sheets are extremely helpful to give out to those that are writing you letters of recommendation. So I just always encourage students to have that, because then if you do accidentally do it in a rush, where you're not having to wait for that faculty member or the community member to say, hey, what else do you want me to include? I know that you're involved in tennis, but that's the only thing I know that you're involved in outside of school. So those are super helpful tips that I still use, and I'm going to graduate school. But those are also tips that I teach my incoming first-year students to do as well, because the amount of time it takes you to apply for a scholarship is really about 20 minutes on average, give or take, if you have everything ready. So I think that's all I have for covering point-wise.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shoshani. I want to talk a little bit about when you talked about your brag sheet. That really goes hand in hand with what Blue said in his show don't tell video. Really, like, you want to instead of saying, oh, I really enjoy medicine, showing that. And that's really goes hand in hand with what you're talking about as far as bragging, like how to brag about yourself. What advice, I guess, would you have for students when to maybe start looking for this? Say they're, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in high school, there's those opportunities. But then there's also opportunities even for students in college, even if they didn't get a scholarship their freshman year. What advice, I guess, can you give to students who I guess are like across the board, looking for scholarships regardless of age?
So brag about yourself, I guess, at any point. I mean, we all do great things, and traditionally for Native people, this is something we talk about at our college a lot, is we're very community minded. So we don't necessarily think about talking about the good things that we do. But the good things that you're doing are what's creating change in your community. And so scholarships, really, I encourage students probably around their sophomore year in high school to really start. Because freshman year, you're just kind of figuring out high school. It's its own realm. But I remember applying for my first big scholarship when I was in high school. I want to say it was my junior year of high school. And it was an extremely competitive scholarship that I didn't end up getting, and it was a lot of work. But there's so many scholarship resources that are out there. So for instance, first generation college students have the Gates Millennial Scholarship, which would be open to them in their senior year. But the amount of work that actually does have to go into that scholarship, I recommend a lot of students start their junior year going into their senior year because of what it's due. But I always encourage any student that I run into, there's so many resources. The College Fund is a really good one for tons of different scholarships. So even though I don't qualify for a lot of the undergraduate scholarships that the College Fund puts out, I still subscribe to the College Fund scholarship newsletter that comes out, because then I can use it for my high school students since I work with Running Start students, and then I can also use it for college students. But then I also applied for, I used FastWeb and scholarships.com as well. Some of them are a little hokey, but you can find some good ones out there that don't necessarily exist.
That's a good pointer. And we're going to talk about how you can stay connected with some of the College Fund resources at the end. But Shoshana's not going out anywhere. So we invite everybody that's been listening, or maybe that's tuning in right now. So we invite all of you to click on that question button and type a question that you have specifically for Shoshani, or to set the stage for finding scholarships or applying for scholarships. So we'll reserve a few minutes to allow you guys to ask those questions. And again, we won't pull you up on the stage, so it doesn't have to be anything with your face, but please definitely ask questions. You all have specific questions regarding scholarships, or maybe you've never heard of a brag sheet before and you want additional information. So go ahead and hang out for just a minute.
Yes. And then also, Shoshani is a College Fund ambassador. And so she really is a great resource. So I know if there's no questions populating in now, feel free. We have till the end of the hour to ask questions and everything, but she's just full of so many good resources, makes a really big impact at Northwest Indian College Fund. We're just so proud and happy that she's a part of our program. And so we really appreciate you being here today, Shoshani. So yeah, so
yes, we have a question. Don't be shy, guys. I mean, this is the perfect time for you to, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and publish this question.
This is a brag for Shoshani.
All right, Shoshani, thank you again for being here with us.
You're welcome. Thanks, Melissa.
I guess I have one question as far as, maybe a little off topic from scholarships, but students with high school or already in college, what advice do you have for students, have got that scholarship and, next steps to be successful in college?
The one step I think that I've actually kind of brought home a little bit more this year for me working with my students in particular, and even myself. So I found out that I was 7 weeks pregnant my first week of graduate school. So I've been learning how to be a mom and go to school at the same time, which is a new thing for me. Is to ask for support. Because the one thing that I always tell my students is my superpower would be to read your mind. Just because that will make your life easier. But I also don't want to know everything you're thinking. But really, in reality, humans can't read minds. And so we often wait to ask for help until it's too late. And so get to know your supports on your campus, whether that is your financial aid office with scholarships. Excuse me, I'm drinking bubbly water. We have a great scholarship department here, or a great person on our campus that helps find scholarships, and she's fantastic at doing that. Or it's learning where your tutoring center is, or things along those lines. Because money is only one aspect of going to college. Being able to have the support and taking the time and actually doing the work is the bigger part of going to college. And so what I always suggest to students is find those on your campus for your support. So student support success coordinators like Marissa, and advisors like myself, and make friends with them. We're not here to be mean. We're not here to do any of that. Our ultimate goal, especially at tribal colleges, is to help you graduate and to help you go back into your community and make a difference. And so we're here to help you succeed. So use us to the resources. I make that same promise to all of the high school students that come for tours. I give them my card and say, if you need me to read an essay, or things along those lines, just send me an email. And if any of you would like my contact information, I'm definitely happy to share it, because we all have different experiences and great resources. So find your support, find those people that can help you, would be my recommendation.
Perfect. And then one last question, and then we're going to take ourselves down. And then Shoshani, feel free to answer this question, and then we will move on.
Mm-hmm. So the question from Billy is, for the brag sheet, what kind of things would you put on there?
So for a brag sheet, the things that I remember putting on mine, I wish I had mine from so long ago, but through moving through the years, and then my mom kept my portfolio from high school, and I don't know why. Some of the things that I was always taught to put on there was any sort of extracurricular. So there's co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So extracurricular is like basketball, tennis, sports, and volunteer activities that you do in your community that you're a part of, organizations that you may be a part of. So like if you are part of your local, for us up here, it's Smokehouse, if you're part of that sort of area in your cultural life, to include that. Some people also include jobs, because for a lot of scholarships, a lot of them look to see that not only are students going to school, but they're working and they have dual lives. And then just any sort of accomplishments that you feel like you have. So obviously in high school, it's a little bit more of a bigger thing. So if you're an honor society, if you're part of a club, if you are on honor roll, that's a really great one to put on there. What are some other ones? They gave out awards in high school a lot for me. So at the high school I went to, so I always had those on there. And just accomplishments that you feel like you have, just things that you could think that would be helpful for somebody that's writing a letter of recommendation to highlight. So like I have a student that he's been extremely involved in leadership activities. And so when he's applied for a couple of scholarships that I've written letters for, where it's really heavily leadership based. And so that was super helpful for me to know that he had, gone to different conferences, that he was a president of a certain organization within the community that was a Native Youth Council. So having those sorts of things, just things that you think might be helpful. I always tell my students more is better, because we can pick through and say, okay, we're going to talk about these 3 things in this letter of recommendation, than to have nothing at all. And so then you end up with a letter of recommendation that's only a couple of paragraphs long, and it's mostly about your academic history. So just anything that you think is super helpful.
Thank you, Shoshani. So a couple of you asked some questions. We will filter those to the end. We want to make sure we get our next presenter up. But Shoshani, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to you for now. Thank you so much.
Don't go anywhere.
Feel free to still ask questions, and then we are going to bring up our next presenter, Marissa.
All right, so Marissa, we're pulling you up to the stage, and we're gonna come down from the stage, and we'll get your slides up here right now. So everybody, this is Marissa Lewis, and she is tuning in. So Marissa, go ahead and click your mute button. You're on mute right now. She's tuning in from the College of Muskogee Nation. So the floor is yours, Marissa.
Okay. Hinchte, Estongo, Marissa Lewis, John Jivkados, Muskogee, Adolwin, Nachoga, Mohaga, Sahowijit, Adatkidoas. Hello, my name is Marissa Lewis, and I work at the College of Muskogee Nation. I am the Student Success Center coordinator here. I also work on the TCU High School Completion Partnership Grant, which is a grant funded through the American Indian College Fund, and we work with local high schools. And so here at the Tribal College, I see students every day for advisement, enrollment, and also to search for scholarship opportunities. So what I wanted to share with you today is some pointers and tips that I give them when they're searching for scholarships. I first tell my students to, get a piece of paper so that we can write down all the scholarships, all the deadlines, the eligibility requirements. And if you're doing it online, then make a Word document and track all those. That way you don't have to go back and search websites. You'll just have it all on one sheet. So whenever we start searching, I first ask students to search their tribal, like their tribe's website. So whichever tribe you are, go to your website, look for either like an education, higher education department, employment and training, career development, some kind of one of those organizations, and then see if they offer any kind of scholarships. So my example, I have the Muskogee Creek Nation. That's my tribe. What we have are several different scholarship opportunities. So for Muskogee Creek Nation, we have the tribal funds grants, then we have like the BIA grants and incentive grants. So go to your tribe, search, look, see what kind of scholarships you have, what kind of eligibility requirements. Sometimes you have to be a full-time student, sometimes part-time, and some of them might have blood quantum too. So make sure you write all those down when you're searching. So that's for tribal scholarships. The next place you can look, if you know what institution you want to go to, if you are going to a tribal college or another public institution, mainstream institution, get on their website and see if they have any kind of scholarships for tribal students or any kind of tuition waivers specific for Native Americans. So my example, I have the College of Muskogee Nation where I work. We have a CMN scholarship, so that's for our Muskogee Creek citizens. Anything federal FAFSA doesn't pay towards tuition, books, fees, room and board. We're going to pick up that cost. And then for other federally recognized tribal members, we have a tuition waiver grant. So we'll pay up to $2,500 per semester for those same books, fees, room and board. So all you have to have is your tribal card for those. And then I have we have a couple of students that have went to Fort Lewis College. I know that they have the Native American tuition waiver. So if you're 50%, you have 50% Native blood, then they're going to give you tuition free to go to their institution. So look for, go to those institutions and see if they have anything. I'm a student of the Oklahoma State University. I will graduate in May with my master's in educational technology. And I know at that institution, and I tell my students this too, that if you, they have transfer scholarships. So if you have a certain amount of hours, I think it's like 30 plus hours, you can transfer to their institution and they'll give you, they'll pay for half your tuition. So, be on the lookout for those scholarships that are specific to the institution that you wish to attend. And then the other, just anything. Google search any kind of Native American scholarships or just whatever you can think of. If you're in any kind of activities or organizations like ACES, if you're in the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, or part of a academic society, go to their website, see if they offer any kind of scholarships for participants or students, and apply for those. I listed a couple of different scholarship opportunities. My son, he was a senior last year, so he just graduated from high school. He's attending the college now. But we did the Gates Scholarship, and that's a long process. You'll need to start really soon. I think the first deadline is in September for that one, and then it goes in phases. So if you make it through the first phase, then I think December is the next phase, and then there's a phase in March. So it's like a year-long process. So my advice to students are to start early, search for everything, apply for everything, and then make sure you keep track, keep a spreadsheet or a Google document or something just to have, so you know which ones, when your deadlines are, and like which ones you've applied for.
If you guys, I really encourage everyone to write some of this down. Between tribal scholarships, other scholarships at a college, she has listed so much information specifically for students Native American students who are needing funding. And there is a ton of funding out there for all of our students. And so we at the American Indian College Fund offer scholarships, but we are just a small piece to this puzzle of finding different places and different ways that you guys can get that funding to go to school. And so I think it's really important for us to hear from outside resources on how to really get the help that students need.
Absolutely. And so now I'm going to, again, invite everyone in the audience. I know Marissa was having some technical difficulties, but we'll pull her up if you populate any questions. So again, you can raise your hand and we'll bring you up to the screen to ask a question to the audience, or you can just click on that little question mark and you can specifically ask a question, and we can project it up on the screen so everyone can see it, including Marissa, and she can, again, give you that very specific, very tailored information. If you have any questions about scholarships, applying, she had a lot of great information about hitting up your tribal ed department. So we definitely encourage that. Ask some questions, make some phone calls, ask an auntie or an uncle for resources that they may know about, and write it down. Take notes of it. So
yeah,
it doesn't look like anybody has any questions.
We're spilling a lot at you. Feel free to ask them at any point, but
okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up. So can we get copies of both PowerPoints? This is great information. So thank you so much, Melissa, for that.
Nice to meet you.
So we can absolutely share any of the resources that we've provided. This PowerPoint, which has both Shoshani and Marissa's amazing pointers. And then Alex and I will also go over some of the details of the scholarships that we offer at the College Fund. But we also have that really excellent video that our Ambassador Blue did. And maybe you missed that, or maybe your audio wasn't so great. So we can go ahead and share that resource as well, in case you want to refer to that or show that to people in your community.
Yeah, so we're going to move on. Marissa, we could hear you just fine, and we really appreciate all that information that you shared with us. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward to specifically the American Indian College Fund scholarships. So we gave you information and pointers for outside scholarships, tribal college scholarships. The list can go really on and on. And then, there's scholarships outside of, our Native American community. So Jackie and I are going to talk about the things that we offer here at the American Indian College Fund. So like I said, we will share the PowerPoint, but feel free to take notes. So much important information coming your way. So our scholarships that are called the Full Circle Scholarships, those are available to tribal college and university students and mainstream students. So essentially for anyone really. And you must be a full-time student. You must maintain a 2.0 GPA. You must be an enrolled tribal member or show descendancy. So that is listed in our application, which we will go through. And you must apply yearly. So say a couple of you have received the Full Circle Scholarship this year, you are not automatically granted that information next year. You have to apply every year. And I'm putting this on your radar. January 1st is when our Full Circle Scholarship application opens. And so mark that down. You have until the end of May 31st, 2020 to finish that application, but it's so good to just get it over with early, get it done. You don't have to worry about it. And like I said, if you have received that Full Circle Scholarship already, you have to apply again. And it is based off of a full year disbursement. So you get it for the fall and spring. With that, you do have to we verify that you are enrolled. So if you are in school in the fall and then you decided not to take classes in the spring or just something came up, we do verify your enrollment. So if you're not enrolled, you will not receive those funds for the spring. But the Full Circle Scholarship is intended to be a year-long scholarship for the fall and the spring. And so this is just some important information for you as you move forward applying and get ready for already next year.
And so one thing I'll highlight also, good information, Alex, is if you are an applicant and you get a scholarship from the American Indian College Fund, like Alex is saying, you have to reapply once a year. But the great thing about the Full Circle Scholarship is if you are awarded money and you apply the next academic year, you're guaranteed that money. So a lot of scholarships don't necessarily say that they'll keep funding you as long as you meet their eligibility requirements. Whereas the Full Circle Scholarship at American Indian College Fund, we certainly will. And so that's the Full Circle Scholarship. So again, like Alex said, that's for you have to be a full-time student, and you could be at a tribal college, you could be at a public, private, not-for-profit school, and that's for any degree. The other scholarship that we offer at the American Indian College Fund is called the TCU Scholarship, the Tribal College and University Scholarship. And before I kind of like ramble off the details about this scholarship, again, I invite anyone to go ahead and hit that little question mark button. And as Alex and I are talking about these different scholarships that we offer, please ask us any questions that you have, and we'll continue giving you details. And then we'll go into kind of a little bit more about the specifics in terms of applying. And then again, we'll open it up to everyone for questions. So the Tribal College and University Scholarship is specifically if you plan to go to a tribal college or university. So say you wanted to go to the College of Muskogee Nation. Say you were just inspired by Marissa. You could apply for both the TCU Scholarship and the Full Circle Scholarship. Or alternatively, say you were inspired by what Shoshani had to say. You could apply for Northwest Indian College. And again, you could apply for both scholarships. And another really cool thing is it's the same application. All you have to do is click a button and say you're interested in applying for both.
Yes, that's a very good point. Same application. And there's the Full Circle, and then it says for tribal college students, and there's an option for that. So when you're in that application, it makes a lot more sense. But yes, same application, same format.
So the difference is for the Full Circle Scholarship, the American Indian College Fund, we open and close that scholarship ourselves. So like Alex said, it opens on January 1st. Mark your calendars. But for the Tribal College and University Scholarship, each tribal college sets their own open and close dates. So it can vary. So you'll have to check with specific admissions offices to see if the deadline varies. Very, very similar to it could potentially be the same as ours, but you have to check just to make sure.
I will follow up with that with those scholarships. Your tribal college that you're at is the one that administers those scholarships. So although it's through us, your tribal colleges is the one that will award those scholarships. You have to check in with your admissions office or the financial and scholarships office about the guidelines for that TCU scholarship, because it does vary from tribal college to tribal college. And so that is just for you guys to know. And it is an application where you have to apply for
every semester. So don't forget. So if you are awarded a TCU scholarship and a Full Circle scholarship, you are guaranteed those monies every year that you're in school. However, you might have to apply every single semester for that TCU money and once a year for that Full Circle money. And like Alex said, the TCU, if you're applying for that scholarship, they might have specific criteria like a GPA or some kind of community service hours. Every tribal college is a little bit different. So check with your admissions office or the school's admissions office to get those details, to get the deadline, and to figure out what you need to do to make sure that you can get your application in on time. So with that, we have a question. Oh, we can see you. Welcome, Allison. So thank you for using that question function. Go ahead and ask any questions about scholarships, the Full Circle Scholarship, the TCU Scholarship. We're going to go ahead and Alex is going to tell you a little bit about what you need to apply for these scholarships.
Okay, so when it's time for you to start applying for scholarships, January 1st, you will go to our website. So collegefund.org. You might want to write this down. Collegefund.org, that's our main website, and you'll click on that Student Resources tab. Everything that you need as far as scholarships and a lot of our information for students is going to be under the Students tab, that Students Resources tab. Seems simple enough, but you will scroll down to scholarships, and that is where you will apply. And for the Full Circle Scholarship, that one that I was talking about before Jackie talked about our TCU scholarships, the Full Circle Scholarship, you will need a digital photo. And so with that digital photo, it seems simple, like taking a selfie or taking this, but we really encourage students to take a good professional photo. As we're looking through your application, we want a chance to get to know you, and we're trying to get to know you through paper or through an application through the computer. So really try and take a professional digital photo and upload that to your application. You will have to supply us with your tribal affiliation. So you will have to provide those documents for that to your CIB. And if you have any questions throughout this, while you're doing your application, we're here at the American Indian College Fund to walk through everything with you if you're having trouble. And then your transcripts. So if you are going into college as a first-year student, as a freshman, you need your high school transcripts. So you will contact your registrar's office at your high school and get those. If you are at college, you will contact your registrar's office and get your transcripts from your registrar's office. And that doesn't have to be official. It can be unofficial. We just need proof of some sort to show that you are enrolled in classes and that you are planning on taking classes next semester. And that is going to be something where you just contact the registrar's office and get that taken care of. Like I said, if you have questions about that, let me know. Our office is always here to help. But those three things you really do need to know. And this goes back to what Shoshani was saying as far as saving some of your responses onto a sheet of paper or just writing things down on a thumb drive she mentioned, because when you start some applications, it doesn't automatically save your application if you don't finish. So when you go in and apply for the Full Circle Scholarship application, you need to be prepared to finish it if you've started. So I always say, students, look at that application, see what you need to provide. They're going to ask you some questions, ask you to provide some more in-depth information besides just your school and grades and everything. Write it down on a Word document before. And so then that way, when you're ready to submit and you have time, you have all of your documents, you can go ahead and submit that all the way through.
Awesome. So we're getting a few questions in, so I'm going to publish those, and then don't go anywhere. We are going to answer all these questions, and we have a few announcements to make. So sorry I was late, but when is the deadline for the TCU Scholarship and Full Circle Scholarship? So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So the TCU Scholarship deadline is set by each respective TCU. So you'll have to check with admissions offices to see when that is. But it is very possible that is the same deadline as the Full Circle Scholarship, which closes on May 31st. But again, it opens on January 1st. So please, as soon as it opens, get it done. We all get busy. We have 1,000 things to do. You're taking classes. You probably have a job. Maybe you're raising a family. When you have time, go ahead and get it done, because if you keep putting it off, that's lost money. Those are lost opportunities. So thank you for that question. I'm going to go ahead and publish this one just for everybody tuning in. Another great resource to find scholarships is fastweb.com. So go
Yes.
ahead. I don't know anything about that one,
Mhm.
but I'll definitely check it out today.
I have heard that. Like I said before, the American Indian College Fund is not the only resource for you as you're looking for scholarships. We encourage students to look anywhere and everywhere.
Definitely. One more question. Does the College Fund offer scholarships for students seeking a master's degree?
Yes, we do. We encourage all students, regardless of where they're at in school. We do with Full Circle. So you would apply for a Full Circle scholarship, or depending on your TCU, depending if they have a master's program, that would be the tribal college. They would have their own guidelines for that. But for the Full Circle scholarships, definitely. We have scholarships set aside for students who are getting their master's. So just because you're a master's student doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. You definitely can.
And another thing I want to mention is if you're a graduate student, definitely hit up your tribal education office. That's basically how I got through graduate school. So tons of resources out there. Do a little bit of research. We're happy to help you with that research. So we have a few more questions, but I want to go through these main points and we'll get to those questions, I promise. So the main points of today, so from our Ambassador Blue, show, don't tell. So anytime you're working on some kind of application or a resume, some kind of document, think about how you can quantify those things that you've done and then qualitatively state like why it was important. So I helped this many students in tutoring hours, but why was that important to you? Like what impact did that have on your community? So go ahead and try to translate all those things that you've been doing, all those things that are important to you that maybe you don't think are that important. They are important. Put them on paper and know a way that you can verbalize them or tell people about them because people want to hear. So show, don't tell.
Yeah, and Blue gave a great example. He said, showing is a way of, or I guess the tell part would be, I love medicine. Rewrite that on your application. That's telling us you love medicine. But showing us is, I volunteer. It has been important with my family. My family has shown, interest in medicine, and I've really taken a love for it, and I want to give back to my community, and give back in that way. After I graduate, that's really showing us what medicine means to you. So yeah, show, don't tell. Such a great line as you start your applications.
Yeah, be true to yourself and try to relay what you want for other people in your words and in the best way that you can. So both Marissa and Shani nodded to this. Save important documents and files on a thumb drive or Google Docs. Whatever works best for you. If your internet is slow, use a thumb drive. If you lose stuff all the time, do not use a thumb drive. Or if you're like me, save it in 20 different places. Whatever works for you, come up with a system. There's so much money out there. This is from Marissa, one of her main pointers. So don't let opportunities just flash by. It takes time, but it's gonna pay off. Apply for as many scholarships as you can. We kind of recommend at least applying for 5 scholarships, but if you apply for more, that's awesome. You can make money going to school, right? You don't wanna be a struggling student. Take some time, it's worth it. And then from us, most scholarship applications open January 1st, including the Full Circle Scholarship. And we encourage everyone that's tuned in today, if you're already a scholarship recipient, definitely mark that on your calendar so you can reapply. And if you're new to this process, January 1st, check it out. If you have questions, we're going to give you our contact information.
Yes.
So we have just a few minutes. I see those questions. We're gonna answer those at the end. So don't go anywhere. We just want to make a few announcements. So thank you so much for tuning in for this webinar. We really hope that you acquired some valuable information, and we will email this PowerPoint and all the resources out to you. We have one more webinar on our fall education calendar, which is December 5th. So tune in to get different skills, tips, resources for how to write. And so resume writing, but also
possibly cover letter, just
cover letter, any of those
tricks.
important documents, essays,
Tips.
A lot of those skills translate to these really important documents. So go ahead and tune in. And so also we have a part of our education series. Next week, we have a special event. I want to say maybe one of a kind, maybe not, but November 20th. And so wellness is really important. So this is a part of our wellness series that we're starting to launch. And so join us for a guided meditation. And so it's really important if you're a student, if you're an educator, whatever you are tuning in, like it's important to care for yourself. And we want our students and the people involved with our programming and the people that just are curious about the College Fund to know that you are important and your wellness is important. And so we're trying to find ways to help you engage in unique wellness activities. And so please join us November 20th for this really awesome opportunity for guided meditation.
These are, so we gave you a ton of information. If you want to continue, learning about what we offer, all of our scholars, we give you a lot of resources. We want to give you the best opportunity to really succeed. Please follow us on social media. It's Native Pathways. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and those are the main 3 platforms that we use. And it's Native Pathways, and it's really giving you updates on, our webinars, important scholarship information. We give so much scholarship information that is outside of the American Indian College Fund, and we share that on there. So I know a bunch of you are on Instagram or Facebook, and Native Pathways is where you will find that. If you are not on social media, you can sign up for our newsletters, and you can do that on our website. And that is a great way to receive the same information that is given on the social media platforms.
And for those of you that are educators and are tuning in for your students, definitely encourage your students to follow us on social media. So like Alex said, a ton of great resources for scholarships, for internships, for job opportunities, like you name it, it's going to be on our website, but also just a really cool place to find out what people are doing in Indian country. Really inspiring stuff happening out there. And then with that, here is my contact information and Alex's contact information.
Yes.
We're here for you guys, for the students, for educators, any questions that you have regarding scholarships, like, you can barely scratch the surface in an hour. And we're happy to put you in contact with Marissa and Shoshani as well if you have those TCU specific questions.
Perfect. So this really sums up this webinar. We have questions, so I encourage you guys to stay for those questions. We are at the end of the hour. So we're going to go ahead and spend a couple extra minutes answering these specific questions. And I'm sure a bunch of you might be thinking these same things. So let's go ahead and start that.
I almost put you on the stage, and I feel that you might not want to be on the stage.
Okay, Annie, I would like to ask more about the waiver for tribal members of federally recognized tribes. I did read where Fort Lewis does have a waiver fee. Are there other institutions that have that too? There is definitely other institutions that have that. I would suggest if there's schools that you're interested in, asking right away their admissions office, do they offer a waiver fee? I know when I worked at Oklahoma State, they had some sort of waiver fees for certain students. And so it differs from school to school. I don't have a list, but if that's a question that you have for us, we can help navigate and help you point you in the right direction for that. That is a main question to ask though. Teresa, do you?
Yeah, hi guys, I just want to jump on, I can add to that a little bit. So Fort Lewis does have a Indian tuition waiver. So does the University of Minnesota Morris. So something unique about those 2 institutions is they both have a history as Indian boarding schools. So in line with their obligation to educate Native students, they've continued that, recognize that responsibility and offer a tuition waiver to Native students who attend college there. They both offer bachelor's degrees. They do not have graduate degree programs. So there's those 2 universities, and then the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan offers the Michigan Indian tuition waiver. And so in Michigan, you do have, to meet those requirements, you have to be a Michigan resident, you have to be enrolled full-time, and you have to be enrolled with a federally recognized tribe. So if you meet those 3 requirements, then you can apply to any of the land grant institutions, and you can apply for the Indian tuition waiver there. So the distinction is in Michigan. The state of Michigan recognizes the relationship with the tribes of this country and their obligation to provide that education. And so I give props to the state of Michigan for adhering to their treaty obligations. But it's open to any Native American in any state. So if you were a participant were Navajo and wanted to attend a university in Michigan, you can apply to a land grant institution after establishing residency, and you'd be eligible for the Indian tuition waiver. Same with Montana. The state of Montana also has an Indian tuition waiver, but you have to be you also have to be a Montana resident, but you have to be enrolled with a Montana tribe. So in Michigan, you don't have to be enrolled with the Michigan tribe, but in Montana, if you're enrolled with the Montana tribe, you'd qualify for their tuition waiver. That's all I got, ladies, and hand back to you.
Teresa. She's our college success coordinator. So thank you so much, Teresa. I was trying to project this question for you to answer, but Alex is going to take this one. So as Full Circle Scholarship recipients, we have certain requirements that we have to fulfill to receive funding for this spring semester. How can we make sure we fulfill them if we miss one requirement?
Yes. So I work a lot with our Full Circle Scholarship recipients. That is one of my main tasks at my job here. And so with that, if you've received a Full Circle Scholarship, you should have received an introduction letter from myself, from someone at the College Fund, giving you those requirements. If you have not received an introduction letter, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Alex Darling. My email is adarling@collegefund.org. And I can actually go ahead and put our contact information up again. But each scholarship has different requirements. So if you have missed something, if you know that you are required to do a webinar, you're required to do a thank you letter, this is real specific to certain scholarship recipients. So this doesn't really apply to everyone. But if your scholarship does require that you do some additional things, such as a thank you letter, attending a webinar, there's other things that scholarships require. And if you have missed one, just contact that with me or contact that with your college success coach. And that will, open lines of communication, and we will work with you. We do not want you to miss out on your scholarship for next spring. So we will be in contact with you. Just always be checking your email if you've received a scholarship. Make sure that you're just on top of communication with us. We work with you. So if you are worried that you might be missing a requirement, go ahead and email me or email your college success coach if you have their information, and then we will work with you on that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so here's another one. So if you are a dual major, can this hinder the process of applying for a scholarship? Like if you're going for a Bachelor of Science or an Associate of Science degree, should you emphasize the Bachelor of Science degree? So no. I mean, I would say start with associates and then go to bachelors, but this could potentially open more doors for more scholarship opportunities. You're going to be able to, as we see, check more boxes and potentially earn more money. So it absolutely will not hinder that process.
And I will say, when you're answering questions as far as your goals, really put in the chance where you get to write more, a bigger response instead of just clicking a box. Explain why you're doing dual major. Would love to hear about why you're wanting to do two things. You have big ambitions, big goals. Those are things that we want to know. It's an example of show, don't tell. Instead of just clicking that you're doing a dual major, explain why you're doing a dual major. I'd love to hear about that. And so, it definitely won't hinder you at all.
And so would other scholarship providers. People want to hear that. Okay, so one more question. So hello, so I was late. If I'm a Wings scholar, so that's one of our cohorts, and I will be graduating in spring 2020, I was wondering, since this is the last year for Wings, if I can still apply for scholarships if you're thinking about a master's. So first of all, rock on for staying in school and for pursuing a master's degree. That's awesome. And absolutely, like Alex said already, we will provide scholarship funding for master's students. But again, another great place to look for scholarship money is your tribal education department.
Yeah, and with the Wings program, your college success coach is Kelly Mitchell. And you've probably received information from her. And if you don't have that, feel free to reach out to myself and I can connect you. But with that Wings program, you will not be left hanging. We scholarships are still going to be available for our wing students. And so definitely please still apply. Like I said, master students are welcome to apply, and continuing students, even if that wings program is going to be finishing, there's still opportunities for scholarships. So yes, so still please apply. And I think that answers all of our questions, and that really wraps up our questions for today.
If you guys have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Alex or I or anyone at the College Fund. And again, if you have specific questions for awesome speakers, Shoshani or Marissa, you can email us and we'll put you in contact with them. So with that, thank you so much, Shoshani and Marissa, for giving us those tips and tricks and sharing them with all of these students. For you guys that are interested in tuning back in, we're going to provide these resources for you. But if you're like, man, I really want my son or my nephew or Billy in the next town, I wish they could have tuned in. We post our webinars on our act. So you can always find this resource, this webinar resource on our website. So feel free to check back in on our website and share that with anyone you think might benefit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining in. We really appreciate taking the time, and hopefully this was very beneficial. I will say lastly, just because we work at the American Indian College Fund, Full Circle Scholarship application opens up January 1st. And so for all of you finishing up this semester, good luck with finals, enjoy the holidays, and we really wish you all the best in your educational journey.
And we hope to see you next week, November 20th, for the kickoff of our wellness series. So thank you guys.
Bye.